Welcome to Two Button Crew. This is Crew Cuts, and I am Dark SIMEON, here to review Mr. Shifty. Now, I want to first say a thank you to the developers of this game. They sent a Steam code, so we got to review this game for free. It is a multi-platform game, that's why I'm reviewing it, because obviously normal SIMEON wouldn't be playing a PC game. Played it on PC, but any platform you have, Mr. Shifty is on it. PS4, Xbox One, Mac, PC, Switch, whatever it is that floats your boat, you can play it. Now the premise of the game is you're playing as this guy, Mr. Shifty, who's basically a faceless mannequin that's like a master thief, and he breaks in and punches people in the face, and your goal is to basically punch your way through a tower full of bad guys. Now the controls are pretty simple. There's only really three things that you do besides moving around, which is you punch, you teleport, and you pick up items. And that's basically it. Maybe you're typing in on the keypad in the game or whatever it is. Basically three main actions. Keeps it really simple, but it's a lot of fun when you find weapons. Anything you punch could probably turn into a weapon. You punch a wooden pallet and a stick breaks off, and you can use that to beat some full space in. Some of my favorite weapons were money. You can actually throw stacks of money and it's a one-hit kill for most enemies. Or pillows. Pillows are a lot of fun to throw, and that is also a one-hit kill. There's one part in the game in which you can get a trident, and you can just throw the trident through an enemy and it sticks in the wall, and you can pick it up and reuse it again and again and again. And usually those enemies are so conveniently lined up so you can get like 3 of them in a row, and it's a lot of fun. Very, very violent. So there's this slow-mo mechanic that the game has where after you beat a bunch of guys up, if one of them tries to shoot you and you would normally get hit by the bullet, instead, it slows time down, and as long as you don't run directly into the bullet, which I have done on a couple of occasions, you're able to teleport around the room and beat a bunch of guys up. Now, it's a cool mechanic, but it's very, very rarely used because, first of all, the only ways of charging it up are dying like 10 times in a row. Once again, I have done that. Or beating up a bunch of guys at once, and it's to your advantage to try and stay in the shadows as much as possible and like pick them off one by one. So you're not going to get the slow-mo very often, but when you do, it is useful. If you're wondering what genre the game is, that was one thing that I didn't really know when I got into this. I was hoping like it was more of a stealth genre, but it's not. If you're thinking it's a stealth genre game, you're going to be disappointed when you put this in and play it. Now, it is fun. It's a beat-em-up game, and there are some stealth sections where you try and be sneaky, but oftentimes you'll like break a pot or accidentally bump into a door or start punching one guy, and then everybody in the room knows what you're doing, and so they'll try and converge on you in some way, shape, or form. So the stealth portion of the game, not so much. It's more of a beat-em-up game. As for the story, it's basically you're breaking into this guy's tower to steal something or kill him. I really didn't follow it because I wasn't that interested. I'm sure, it does have a story to it, and this you have your person who's helping you along and they talk. Mr. Shifty himself doesn't talk, and then the bad guy will chime into your radio and talk to you as well, or through the overhead speakers or whatever it is. So there is dialogue as far as the bad guy goes, and as far as your the person on the outside trying to help you goes. But I don't know, I didn't really find the story interesting, and I didn't really find the dialogue funny. I know it was trying to be funny at some points. I didn't really think it was that funny, but they try to be meta and stuff. Maybe some of you guys enjoy that. There is a little bit of swearing, especially at the beginning of the game. So if that's something that alarms you or whatever, just be aware of that. As far as the graphics go, it doesn't look bad. It's all right. I had a few graphical glitches, especially when I would knock somebody out and their body would go into the ragdoll physics and they'd start glitching through a wall. That really didn't bother me that much. It was just kind of fun to poke at. One thing that could have been improved, now that I think of it, is sometimes, especially in one section, there's so many bodies on the floor that you'll be punching some guys and you think you knocked everybody out, but then like, oh wow, this guy's starting to swing and punch at me. If you don't move immediately, you're going to die, and sometimes it's difficult to tell between somebody who's dead and somebody who's living. I know they try and make a little bit of a shade difference, like a dead body looks a little bit darker than a living body. Just sometimes it's difficult to tell. Sound-wise, it sounds good. The sound effects, there's no problems. My one issue is that there's like no variation in the stage themes. You have the elevator theme, which is this nice elevator music that plays between levels, and you have the stage theme, and that's pretty much it. Maybe one or two variations on the stage theme. Just would have been nicer to have a little bit more variety as far as that goes, but it's not grating by any means. There wasn't at any point where I'm like, oh, this music is so terrible, I just want it to shut off. No. It was actually pretty good. The music is good. It's just kind of repetitive, and I wish that they would have varied it up a little bit. As far as difficulty goes, the difficulty is actually pretty fair. You don't have a health bar. If you get hit by one punch or one explosion or one bullet, you're dead. And that may seem like, whoa, that's really difficult, but it's pretty forgiving. You respawn at the beginning of whatever room you died in, and usually that's not a problem. They do a really good job of scaling up the difficulty, preparing you for the next challenge, and it does get a little bit more challenging as it goes on. The only exception to this is there's a point, one of the last rooms in, I can't remember, it's the third or fourth level, where just wave after wave of bad guy comes in, and it's about 20 or 25 waves of bad guys just slowly coming in. After you beat up a few, more come in, and then more and more. And I died 27 times in that room. And that is saying something. Now, there are other rooms that I died 27 times in, but usually that's after a couple of seconds of, oh, I'm gonna rush in and try and beat this guy, oh, I died, and so on. This was, I get so far and then die, and then I get 15 waves in and then die, and then 15 waves in again and then die. And it just took so long, and it was just, there were no checkpoints. I don't know, that part kind of frustrated me. I understand why they did it. I don't know if they should have put it that early on in the game. Once I hit that point, I was like, is this what the rest of the game is going to be like? Because if then, I'm not interested. And I did move past that. I haven't run into anything like that since, so I can only assume that was a once in a game type of deal. Even though the gameplay is simple, they try and keep it fresh, which is nice. It half succeeds in that. I don't know if it's enough new stuff to keep you interested for too long, but it's not too bad. One disappointing thing that I ran into is how linear the game is. In, I think it's the second or third level, your partner says, this floor isn't on the map, and there's like tons of secret passage ways around this place and secret rooms. And I was thinking, whoa, like this game is going to be like having all these secret places that I can hide into and get this and that. And then by the time the level was over, after that, I don't think I ran into any secret passageways, maybe one or two. And it was basically like, for that area, there were secret passageways. And the rest of the game is so linear that there's no point for any sort of secrets. I don't know if that's going to be a breaking point for some people. For me, it's just like there's no incentive to go outside of the bounds. This is the next room, this is the next puzzle. There's no need to go back. There's only need to go forward in one direction. I don't know if that makes sense to you guys, but I was a little disappointed after they said, oh, there's secret passageways, and I'm like, oh, maybe there's some power-ups. There's no power-ups. There's nothing you can add on to your guy. Everything that you need to solve a puzzle is in that room. And so that's, you know, kind of a downer for me, but it's not too bad. In the end, there's some fun mechanics. Teleporting is a lot of fun. There's interesting puzzles, and it's really fun beating guys up. I give it a 7 out of 10. It's a good game. Check it out if you're into beat 'em ups. If you're, like I said, if you're thinking this is a stealth game, go someplace else. There's better stealth games out there. This is more for puzzle solving and beating people up. Signing out.